Okay, everyone, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to continue our lesson on interpreting graphs using the graph that's shown here below. I'm going to go ahead and turn this graph off for just a second so we can recognize that what we have here is a coordinate plane. Okay, this right here is the x-axis and this right here is the y-axis. Okay, notice how we're really zoomed in on this quadrant 1. Okay, I know that this might not, like these axes look a little funky because they're not as bolded as we're used to. But yeah, that is what these are. Okay, and we are zoomed in on this first quadrant. Now, the x-axis is representing time in seconds, and distance along the road in meters is our y-axis. All right, but we're focused in on this quadrant 1 because it's where all our numbers are positive. All the x values are positive, all the y values are positive. It wouldn't really make sense for our time to go into the negatives, nor would it make sense for the distance along the road to go into the negatives. So a lot of times, as I mentioned before, we're going to really focus in on this quadrant 1 when we're talking about our real world stories, because a lot of times the positives are really what applies. So let's go ahead and read our instructions that refer to this graph, okay, this red graph. So it says a piecewise linear function models the distance that a vehicle travels over an interval of time, and it wants us to use complete sentences to interpret what this graph is showing. Okay, so we're going to do that now. I'm going to give you an idea of how to do it, and we have a few more for you to try later today. So right now, like I said, time is our x-axis. It is the thing that is happening no matter what. It is the independent variable. Okay, right here, this is t representing our time. So right now we're talking about 0 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm actually going to turn markers on. What this is going to do is it's going to add a little point each time a second passes. So let me go ahead and hit play. So you notice, there's points being marked every second, but there's not too much else going on. So what we're going to do, I'll let that finish. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and reset it. And we're going to go ahead and turn on our road. Okay, what this road is going to do is it's going to kind of tell us, or kind of show us a visual of what's happening with our car as this is happening. Okay, now before I even hit play, and I would like you to do this on all of your, when you do these as well, is try to picture what this car is doing before you actually play it, right? So I'm looking at this and I see, again, as time is increasing, this car's distance along the road is also increasing, right? So it's doing that this whole time. But then there's something that weird that happens here, right? I want you to think about what that might mean and make a prediction prior to seeing what the car is actually going to do. And then I also see that it's continuing to, as time is increasing, our distance is increasing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so time is increasing again, so is distance. Oh, look at what the car does. So at this flat point, it seems like because distance is not increasing anymore, at that point, our time is still going by, right? But distance is not. So one more thing I'm going to have you try is, and by the way, we can also use this. We use a slider to kind of get a better idea of what the car is doing at individual time intervals. But we can also add photos on. Photos is kind of cool because it's going to give you a snapshot each second of where the car is. So I'm going to hit play one more time. So again, it's moving, it's going further, and then it stops. Maybe imagine a stop sign being there. We're going to have to make our story in a second. Then it seems to be continuing on. Okay, cool. So again, you could click any of these off, but I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start telling my story. Okay, so let's see. Let's get over to our document where we can type in. And what we're going to say is, I'm going to jump back to this 1 to 4 seconds. Okay, so it looks to me, I'm going to get rid of these photos actually for a second. All right, so it looks to me that the car is traveling at a certain speed. It travels, actually, it seems like it goes 100 meters in 4 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and say that. I'm going to say a car takes 4 seconds to travel along a road for 100 meters. Okay, I'm also going to note that the car is traveling at a constant speed. And I know that because the steepness of this line is the same. It doesn't change, it doesn't curve at all. It's just one thing from 0 seconds to 4 seconds. So I'm going to include that in here. Now you guys should be writing this as a full paragraph. I'm going to separate mine into separate lines so you can see it better for right now. Okay, so it travels at that constant speed for 4 seconds, and then it stops. Okay, and it stops for 2 seconds. I know this because here's 1 second and here's 2 seconds that go by. So I'm going to say the car then stops at a stop sign for 2 seconds. Next, after stopping, it seems to continue on. Okay, as time goes by, it's continuing on. I'm going to say let's see, goes up to 200 meters, and after it stopped, it was at 100 meters. So I'm going to say that it continued on at the same speed as before for another 100 meters. Okay, and I can move this along to kind of help me see that. Cool. So after stopping, the car continues along the road at the same speed for about 100 meters. Now I'm going to put this all back together, so it's one paragraph, and I'm going to do one final check just to see, and I recommend doing this every time. After you have your paragraph, your story, you should check it against what you originally had. So as I read it, let's check it out. A car takes 4 seconds to travel along a road for 100 meters. Okay, that looks good. It is traveling at a constant speed. I agree with that. The car then stops at a stop sign for 2 seconds. After stopping, the car continues along the road at the same speed as before for about 100, or for another 100 meters. That looks good. So the thing is here, before we had this picture in here, we really didn't necessarily know that this was even talking about a car. You know, it did say distance along road, but maybe it only said distance here, right? Maybe let's just pretend it only says distance. Well, you know, this could be about anything, right? So when we do other problems throughout the class, we might be talking about different things. Maybe this is, instead of a car, it's talking about a boy walking to school in the city. So maybe the boy starts walking from home towards school. He stops and waits in line for breakfast at a food truck, and then after getting his lunch, he continues on his way to school. All right, so again, this can change. It doesn't necessarily have to be about a car, although these examples that you're going to be doing today do have to do with that car. So go ahead, play around with these, try it out, and try making your own sentences.